So my job is to try to give a little bit of an introduction and an overview to what it is we do. And let me just sort of start by getting to know you guys a little bit. How many people have got with them a smartphone or smart device of any sort? Anyone? Keep your hand up. Have you got two? Second hand up. Have you got a second one? Oh, anybody got a third device? Three hands. Lady here, three hands. You've got a connected camera by the look of it. So we're all connected all of the time, and I guess that's one of the themes. What I'm going to talk about, though, is making the web work for everyone. When I started at Google, it was about 6 years ago now. My kids were about 6 or 7, and they were saying, you know, what is it you do at work, Dad? And I don't know if you ever tried to answer that question. It can be quite tricky with the child. But I said, basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the web work for everyone. We're trying to organize the world's information, make it accessible and useful, but we're just trying to make the web work, make the technology get out of the way. Get out of the way so you can do what you want to do. You can get on with living your life, loving your loved ones, and the technology gets out of the way and makes it easy for you to use. And that's what we're aiming to do at Google. So that's what I'm going to talk about here. And I've spent a lot of time in the last 6 years trying to sort of help people understand the impact of the web on people's lives, on businesses, on economies, and so on. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. When I started, I was struggling to do that. And we brought in to an event like this a young guy of 19, a British guy. His name was Charlie McDonnell. And Charlie is a star of YouTube. So if you go onto YouTube now, you'll see these people who are sort of video bloggers. And they make short videos, and Charlie makes a short video probably once a week. It's about 5 minutes long, and it talks about what's going on in his life. He might do an entertaining song. It's a very personal experience. And Charlie had, by the time I first met him, probably 6 or 8 million people had watched his videos. That's quite a decent number. And Charlie came to an event like this, and people were talking about the internet and what impact it was going to have on the world. And he just stood up and he said, I don't understand why people older than me, he was 19, I don't understand why people older than me think the real world and the internet are two different places. They're not. And actually, since then, what we have, of course, with our smart devices, you've all got yours with our smartphones, is we've got a real bridge between the real world and the internet. You've got the entire internet in your pocket. All of the people, all of the information, and all of the processing power of the internet is in your pocket. And that brings it to life in a very real way. But also what we're trying to do at Google is we're trying to bring real life to the web. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. We're trying to make it easy for you to share online in the same way as you